Josh Herrema here with Radiant Reflections in what we are calling our behind-the-scenes sessions. Every week we do a deep dive into the message from the previous week, but we also want to start to kind of open the doors to let people see a little bit of, in church world, how the sausage is made, so to speak. So we're starting this with a conversation with the four of us. So with me I have Pastors Ryan, Josh Brown, and Brandon Kinsey.
Hold on, why didn't you say my last name?
Did I not?
noticed it too.
You did not. You said everyone else's last name but mine, just out of curiosity. Not that it matters.
Oh.
Keep going.
So Pastor Ryan Bibb, Pastor Josh Brown,
Bibb.
Pastor Brandon Kinsey. I think because for so long I've just because even up at Life Change you were Pastor Ryan,
Sure,
or you were Ryan, and yeah, so that's probably why.
I'm not hurt.
Okay, that's good. That's good. We don't want to start this episode out with a bunch of bitterness in the room here. So.
Cookies fix bitterness.
It
That's
does.
right.
Unless you cram them full of fruit,
Like raisins?
Lord, help these people.
It's not a
Yes.
cookie. What is that?
It raises, but then it's sort of healthy because then it's a raisin. That's
If I want a cookie, I don't want something healthy.
Oh, well, I can see that.
I'm going to go on a diet, and I'm going to put fruit in cookies and lose weight.
And then it's okay.
Said no one ever.
We just
Okay.
derailed. We just write
That's
down.
okay. That's all right. So much in the
Behind the
same way that
scenes.
when you watch a movie, if you watch the special features, I'm not like a special features kind of guy, but my wife loves the special features. She'll watch this is how they got this shot, and this is like what these actors are really like in real life, and da 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 da. This is kind of like that. So over some of these behind the scenes sessions, we'll talk to the pastors. We'll talk to various ministry leaders. We're going to try to get the pastors' wives in here for a couple of sessions.
Oh, boy.
Just to get the real deal on how this all works. But we're going to start today with you pastors. So, practically speaking, what does pastor mean? How would each of you describe the role of pastor? You guys can fight over who wants to talk first.
I don't want to go first.
We'll do the same thing we did on take one. For those of you watching or listening, we had one take, and I forgot to turn one of the microphones on because I just forgot. And so this is take two. I'll do the same thing that we did the first time.
So this is
everybody
like-
deferred.
This is behind the scenes of behind the scenes.
Yes.
Yeah, we were
this is like
5
a-
minutes
We're
in.
five-
We had
5-6
to
minutes in.
scratch it all.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had solved world peace, I think, in that first 5 minutes,
Yeah.
but thanks to me, it's done.
And it's
So
not even
unfortunately,
recorded.
our audience will never know.
They'll never
Well,
know.
which mic wasn't on?
We're going to go with Pastor Brandon.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I don't really know.
And I had so much wisdom.
I'd
in
have to
that
keep
5
the
minutes.
cables back. Josh, I think pastoring is shepherding. You know, the Greek word, it's poimen, and it means shepherd. Pastor means shepherd. And I know for me, being a pastor, a lot of times just there's so much condemnation, there's so much guilt, there's so much shame that the world pours on people. I think a big part of pastoring is reminding people just how much God loves them, how much he has given for them, giving his only son. And then, also as that shepherd of sheep, you're reminding people of God's best for them. Like, this is the direction you should go. And then the hardest part, and I know you guys will nod your heads with this, the hardest part is when you have a sheep, a fellow sheep, who is on a path that could hurt themselves or hurt another person. And you have to go to that person and say, you got to use the shepherd's hook, so to speak, and say, no, that's not the way you want to go. This could hurt you and separate you from God, and God doesn't want that for you. So that's
Super
hard.
challenging.
Very hard.
Yeah.
And actually, JB, and we didn't really unpack this in the first take, but I think it's important to tease out, because you didn't mention here, like, we're also sheep, right? As pastors, we are not like elevated.
Yeah.
In fact, some people actually use the term under shepherd.
Yeah.
Right? Because we know that Jesus refers to himself as our good shepherd, right? So pastors are not like on level with Jesus to where like
Not at all, just to be clear on that.
I mean, so yeah, it's a weird tension to live in of being an under shepherd, but also at the same time we are a sheep following Jesus.
Our neighbors are
good
shepherds.
shepherd.
Like, they have sheep. They're right around the corner from us. They have different pens, and they have these 2 white sheep dogs. I don't even know what kind of dogs they are, but they're massive. I like to think I'm just a sheepdog.
Oh,
Just kind of running around trying to keep the sheep safe.
there you go.
I think on a side note, too, on that is pastors need pastors.
Yeah.
Shepherding.
And so, one of the things I like to see our staff do is just get a mentor, get a pastor to pastor you as well. So you're right. We're not above anything.
Which is actually, so we're going a little bit of a different direction. But I mean, because that's a struggle, right? I mean, for us, you normally think of kind of a spiritual high point in the life of a follower of Jesus is the Sunday morning experience. Coming to church, being part of, praise and worship and hearing the teaching. So one of the struggles is, right, and maybe this is just me, you guys can speak into this, right, but the struggle is when you're part of the, for lack of a better term, production, it can feel different. I remember like before being in a pastoral role, church felt different. It's not bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know, you guys jump in on that. Like, is that something that you guys find to be a struggle? Or like, have you, I mean, and Ryan, you've been in ministry longer than I have. JB, you've been in ministry longer than I have. Kinsey, you've probably, I mean, all said and done, you probably, I'm the baby here. But I mean, is that something that you guys have wrestled with over the years, or not really? Have you found a balance?
Well, like, when we go to conferences or something, and a lot of the conferences that we go to, it's almost kind of like church for pastors in a sense, I guess. Like there's worship, there's prayer, there's a message of encouragement of some kind. There could be a theme depending on what the conference is. But here's the thing, like when I go to those, I'm not on duty, so to speak. And so like, I'm not thinking about what am I going to say? Are my pants zipped up? Am I going to trip on the stairs?
That's a real thing, by the way. The
totally
pants zipped up.
I check every time.
So I'm just curious though. So you're saying like in general, like you go to Meijer, you don't care whether or not your pants are zipped up?
Yeah, out in public I'm not, but when I'm on a stage where
With lights on you and
there's
cameras.
a couple hundred people looking at you,
Zipper check before you hit the stage is real.
okay, so this is behind the scenes.
This is this may be behind the scenes.
This is where our boxers are.
I'll easily check my pants 20 to 30 times on a Sunday morning.
Holy cow.
Easily.
I honestly don't think
There's
I've
a little
ever
OCD
checked.
thing that just popped up right
I mean,
there.
I check, but not to that degree.
I check right before I come out that door. I just do a quick whoop.
Yeah. So there it is.
Okay.
It's out there.
Here's the question. Who's gone on stage with their zipper down?
Oh, I have.
I don't know, because I never checked.
I totally
mine.
have.
I think because of my OCD, I haven't.
Like, do you have just bad zippers though, to where like
No,
like
but
you check it once, then like, you know what, it might have slipped down.
No, I was here the other day, just here at the church doing something, and my fly was down, and I was with two friends here. I think you were here, weren't you? We're out in the new part of the church looking at something, and my fly was down. Like, it does happen to me. I just don't want it to happen while I'm on stage.
No.
So I mean, as silly as that is, that's what's consuming my brain instead of maybe the song lyrics that are happening. It's hard for me to be fully all in on a Sunday morning, especially if I have any kind of stage presence sort of thing. So because I don't want to be a distraction to someone who is trying to be in the presence of God. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to be a stumbling block for them. Like, are they going to miss the lyrics because my fly's down, or because I jumble up a bunch of words or something, or my sentences aren't connected and they don't make sense, sort of thing. Like, I think about those things before I go on stage. Yeah, so it's hard for me to be fully connected on a Sunday morning. Yeah, that was. Someone else needs to share something about their zippers.
I'll say, when every once in a while, I'm able to have a Sunday off, and we try to, go visit a random church or whatever, get away. I have a hard time going into another church on a Sunday off to experience church, because I'm going in, going, okay, what information can I grab?
Recon.
What are they doing that we're not?
Yeah.
I go into their auditorium, and I watch the service flow, and I'm writing down their service flow. What can we learn? What did I like? How did they welcome people? Oh, man, that video announcement, man, I like that. We can bring that in. Oh, I like that order. It is a struggle for me personally on my Sundays off to go to another church and just attend church.
Yeah.
It like Brandon, you said, it's like the conferences that we go to are like church for me. It's like the one time I'm not taking service order notes or trying to see what flyers I can grab here and there type thing. Even though I still do, if a conference is at a church, I'll still randomly grab something from that church. But
Yeah, guilty.
Yeah, which, I mean, you kind of gave me, I don't know if warning is the right word, but I mean, because you were kind of my onboard to full-time ministry, and you warned me. You said, hey, being a pastor is going to kind of, in a sense, wreck church.
Yeah, you'll never be the same.
It's
Because
never the same.
you can't
It's
look
not.
at you can't look at it through the same lens.
Yep.
And you don't. Like you said, like it's almost like a subconscious thing.
Well, think about a priest, like back in the first covenant. You know, they have all these people who are bringing animals, living creatures to them. And then behind the scenes, inside the temple, where those people are out in the outer court worshiping, you're killing animals. You're gutting animals.
That's right.
You're putting gizzards and whatever else over here.
Priest
Awful-
was
awful.
synonymous with butcher.
Butcher, and you're
it
lighting a fire and you're barbecuing. You know, it's a big thing. It doesn't look the same on the inside of the temple as it does on the out.
And I think for me too, when I come here on Sunday morning and there's people, like I want to give them the best experience possible. So I'll be honest, I carry a lot of weight on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of weight because I don't know what hell people have gone through all week.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have a little saying that we do as, you know, as staff, as a worship team, we say, give them heaven.
Yeah.
Right? Just give them a glimpse of heaven because their week could have felt like they're walking through hell right now. And that is just for me personally, and I'm sure for many of you guys as well, it just carries a lot of weight that maybe most people don't realize the weight. But don't get me wrong, I get giddy on Sunday morning,
on.
like I'm here.
Yeah.
But it is there's a weight that we carry that maybe most people don't realize we actually carry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did each of you come to be in this pastoral role that you are currently in?
Jesus.
Little Sunday school answer right there. That's right. So give me a little bit more detail than that. How did Jesus bring you into this pastoral role that you're in?
I feel like I'm always going first.
Well, you don't have to. I mean, you spoke first. That's all right.
Dang it. Trying to be last because the last will be first, right?
Tag, you're it.
That's right. What do the kids do now? Like nose goes or something?
Nose goes.
Have you seen this thing?
Nose goes. Nose
Then
goes.
then you don't.
See, you touched your nose, so
so
go.
you go.
What?
We psych you out, man. It's nose goes, and you don't do it, and you touch
I'm
it.
not.
No.
Dude, the kids do this.
Have you heard of this?
My kid,
No.
dude,
Yeah,
my
nose
kids
goes.
do
Not
this
even
to
a
me,
little.
and they did the same thing to me. They're like, you touched your nose. I'm like, but what? What in the world?
I don't
It's kind
know
of like
what
I think
just
it's a new
happened.
version of not it. Like 1, 2, 3, not it.
Okay.
Like that kind of thing.
But you are it, so you have to go
Okay.
first.
Yeah, you
So-
touch your nose.
So your question was, how did I know that I was going to be a pastor?
How did you come to be in your current role? Right? Like, I mean, did you
In this
did
role
you just
here at Reading
Ryan
Life.
hired me.
did you
That's everyone's answer. All right, next question.
You're being a punk, dude. Like what? You start with Jesus, and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I hit Jesus.
Well,
You're like, now
okay,
I gotta.
So I think the quick answer is, because I want to hear your guys' response, is I think God just put something deep within my DNA, a passion. And then my prayer was, Lord, I'd love to be able to do this all the time and still pay my bills. So I have this passion and this fire for Jesus, and I want other people to experience that. We talked about experience, and that's kind of one of our four things here at the church is we want people to experience Jesus. Well, because I've experienced that, I want other people to be able to do that. And I would do that in the workplace, but I wanted to invest all of my time into it. It's almost like my job was getting in the way in a sense. Like I was still ministering to people. I was still trying to disciple people even within my workplace, but there were still tasks and duties that I needed to do, and God just put this passion deep within me. And so then I just started pursuing ministry and trying to gain more knowledge to be able to overflow. So like an education, and within our tribe of the Wesleyan denomination, they kind of have these classes that you can take to equip you. And all that did was put gas on the fire for me. And then the Lord opened up some opportunities at a church in Wisconsin, and now here in Sturgis to be able to serve full time. I mean, even before I was serving full time here, I was still serving in the church. I think I was still kind of in a pastoral role. I wasn't called a pastor. I didn't have a business card, but I was still pastoring people. I think God just put it in my DNA. So
funny story that some people may not know.
You're not going to share that
on this.
It is behind the scenes,
Well, I
bro.
am the one that did the hiring, so I feel like I'm new here. I mean, I don't even know if I've been here a month yet. Back 5 years ago, and I knew of Brandon Kinsey
because I had a reputation.
He did have a reputation,
A really good one, though, right?
but I knew
That's another
Brandon.
podcast.
Brandon was pastoring. I knew he was a youth pastor out in Wisconsin, and he was coming back. And I remember I was at my parents' house helping with yard work or something, and I get a phone call, and I answered it, and it was Brandon telling me his story about how him and his wife and family, they're moving back to Sturgis, and he's looking for a job, wants to know if I would hire him. I don't even know the guy, right? And I'm like, wow, that's just, like, bold, right? And I was like, oh, we'll see. Like, at the time, we weren't hiring yet. And so I got off the phone with Brandon. I'm like, wow, I mean, that's just bold. Like, but on his end, he said he felt the Holy Spirit prompting him to call me and do that. But so then it took, I don't know, maybe a year and a half of just getting together and meeting. And I mean, I saw something that God planted passion in him. I think after several B-dubs, we realized it wasn't.
That's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual
that
place.
What his DNA is not youth ministry per se. It's this other track, and we finally got there. And as the church was growing, it would just fit. It fit well with what we needed to happen. And
Yeah, I was reading a book is titled Whispers, and it was just the idea that God speaks to us in whispers, and I felt that God had whispered to me, call Ryan. And that was scary. Like, who does that? So it's like,
Brandon.
Brandon Kinsey does that.
I was just trying to be obedient
crazy.
to what I felt like God was calling me to do. And so I was trying to at least, if anything, fall forward instead of backwards. So just so people know that just a little bit more in context.
Okay. JB.
Yeah, I know for me, I've been a pastor a long time, worship pastor and assistant pastor, and we had come from a really, really challenging church situation. Is where I'd married my wife. I went through Bible college. All my kids were born there. All of them dedicated there. My wife and I were baptized there. Just a really challenging. We went through what I liken it to like what people describe like a divorce. Mm-hmm. It was really awful. Yeah. I had some really close friends that are mentors. Two of them are mentors in my life, older saints, and they invited us to a worship night here at Radiant Life. And I came and just encountered the Lord and experienced healing. I didn't really know what it was or what was happening, actually. And I walked out the worship center doors into the old lobby, and the mentor, this gentleman, Mickey Schultz, he was standing out there, and he said, hey, I think God's calling you to be the worship pastor at Radiant Life. So what would have you done different in that worship service? And I said, I laughed. I literally laughed out loud. I'm like, no, I don't think that's, He says, no, I really think that you're supposed to be praying about this. You need to pray about it. I said, well, I respect you, so I'll pray. I'll pray about it. And I did. I prayed about it, and there weren't very many people here at that time. Ryan had just come a few months before. 3?
Yeah, probably 2-3 months.
Yeah, because we came in September or October of.
It would have been 2015.
So I think that worship
July
night, if it's the one that I'm
2015.
thinking, I think that worship night would have been in November.
Okay.
It could have been.
November of
So
15.
I was here 3 or 4
Yeah,
months.
Johnny Davis was leading. Lori Schrock was. There was a grand piano on stage. I mean, it was super traditional. They played modern music, but it was a traditional. It doesn't look anything like this. And so yeah, I prayed about it, and I felt like we needed to come and visit the church a couple times, just like to hear, what's this guy about, and just heard a strong heart of evangelism, which is something that where we had come from was grossly lacking, and we were so hungry for kingdom fruit. We had seen holiness and discipleship and super uber Bible teaching study kind of culture in church, and we were hungry to see younger, newer, hurting, broken people in darkness come to light. And so we could see that in Ryan. We could see like there was this vein of hunger in him for that same thing. Like, okay, let's check this out. So we came a few weeks. And then I think I invited you guys out to the studio.
Yeah, we went out to your studio.
On the farm place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys
Strummed
asked me
your
to play
guitar.
music.
You got to play. Like, who is this guy? Can he sing? Like,
Play us a song.
Yeah, like, you got to say something. Sing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I sang a few songs, and you guys offered me a position. And, for the first couple of years, this is behind the scenes, and I can tell you, too, about culture here. I had a game plan coming in. I knew what the Lord had spoken to me about what he wanted to accomplish in worship at Radiant Life. I heard from him, create a culture of worship amongst the body and amongst the team. And I knew it was going to require a pretty major overhaul. And so I had emailed Ryan a list that I really felt like if we were going to get to the right place that we needed to be in 18 to 24 months, I felt like within a 2-year window, if we could accomplish these things, it would be pretty amazing. And it was gear stuff. I went to California that week for business, and Ryan emailed me that week. And the email was very, very brief. It said, everything that you had on that list is here in the church. It was a lot of gear. So right away I knew, I was like, okay, here's a group of people who are serious about change, and they're serious about excellence, and they're serious about worship, and they're willing to invest in it. They're willing to go for it. And so I think another thing, too, about calling and pastoring, if you want to know if you're a pastor, look behind you. If you don't have any people following you, you're not probably called. But if you do, if there are people following, maybe God's calling you. Maybe he has a place for you to serve him in leading, under shepherding, sheepdogging. So, yeah.
Sheepdogging.
So, yeah, I guess this November would be 5 years then. That I've been here.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's been crazy.
Seems like it was a blink of an eye.
Yeah,
It's
it
called
gets
by quick,
worse.
dude.
It gets worse as you get older.
Wow. Yeah, because us guys in our 40s
Yes.
know that.
Yes.
Oh,
Young pups.
what's that like?
You'll find out soon
Yes. You'll find out.
It will be soon. So, Ryan, how about you? How'd you? come to be
You
in
can
this?
hear my whole story if you go to Next Steps, our
Oh,
experience.
Oh,
You'll hear my whole story.
yeah. Steps.
That's my dog right there. Come on. That is awesome.
No, I'll just say my role here. This is hometown for me. Not just hometown, but this is my home church. This is the church I grew up in, and so I didn't want to come. I kind of laughed at the idea to give people real behind the scenes. I think I had a conversation with within our tribe, the Wesleyan tribe. We have superintendents that oversee regions of churches, and I was at a meeting. Or at a meeting, and Chris Conrad, our superintendent, said, "Hey, do you want to meet? I think for breakfast and talk Sturgis?" Because I knew at the time the former pastor, Steve Bean, was leaving, and I laughed. I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm comfortable."
Laughing
where
at
I'm
ministry, it doesn't work out, does it?
Yeah, I was comfortable where I was at. I was overseeing some kids ministry, but also the teaching pastor. We were just really comfortable where we were at, and that's probably where I knew God was going to change, is when I got comfortable. And so I said, you know what? Okay, I'll hear it. But I wasn't going to entertain it. I thought I would hear it. And so gave reasons what's happening and blah, 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 and why they believe I should at least throw my application towards the job. I said, I had a mentor speak and say, just go through the process. Just go through the process. Even though your heart is not leaning there, go through the process. So I did. Kept going through the process. And honestly, I was scared. I kept going, why am I falling more in love with not the role, but the city? Because I didn't care about ever coming back to Sturgis. It's nothing what I ever wanted to do. But God kept changing my heart, and I fell in love with the city of Sturgis. You just go through the process. And I remember I was telling my former lead pastor that I was working under, he knew I kept going through this process, and I said, we're not going. Don't worry. We're not going. And he knew that I never wanted to come back to Sturgis also. So to him, he's like, then why are you going through it? I said, because my mentor said just go through the process. So I'm listening. I'm just going through the process, even though my heart is not towards being here. And God got a hold of my heart. I remember my wife and I came for the very first interview, and we were heading back up to the Grand Rapids, Holland area where we were living. And on our way up, I remember turning to her and say, we have to come to Sturgis, don't we? She said, yep. And that's the end of it. Like, boom. And here we are.
It's not the end of it. That was the start of it.
That's the start of it. Yeah. Yep.
Way to reframe that.
What about you, Josh?
Right. So I in a sense, like I kind of rode Ryan's coattails here. I had the opportunity, the privilege of, before having Ryan as a boss, having him as a friend, but he was also on staff, the church that he was at up north of here, up in the Grand Rapids, Holland area. My wife and I attended. Nicole and I had been going there. We had actually started attending there before Ryan came on staff. And then when him and Katie
So just on a side note, what was your first impression then? Because you were already part of the church, and here's the new guy coming in.
So I honestly don't remember.
That's a good question. I'm curious.
Yeah.
I honestly don't remember. Although my wife has said, and hopefully I don't think I'll get her in trouble because she's probably said this too. Like, my wife said, like, when they first came, like, yeah, we're probably not going to be friends with them. And then now, I mean, for those of you that know, I mean, my wife and Nicole Katie are really good friends. It was great. I mean, just there was kind of an evolution of, the relationship. So as we got to know them, we were in multiple life groups, semesters with Ryan and Katie.
A lot of small group life together.
Yes, we did life together a lot. We hung out outside of church, because we became friends. And then Ryan, in his role as the kids pastor, one of the ministries under his umbrella was the preteen ministry. And my wife and I co-led that with another couple. And again, that was under Ryan's leadership. So we served alongside and under their leadership in a variety of capacities.
Was that your first ministry experience, or have you served in other areas prior to that?
So I had at that church, I'd been on part of the music team. I played bass for
slapping the bass
20 some years. Yeah, slapping the bass.
You just hit one string, right?
That's right. You just need one note, then you're good. I'll have to send you guys some videos of Victor Wooten.
Yeah, that'll change your mind.
That'll change your mind about bass players. But no, so I had, in previous church experiences, I'd been involved in worship teams for a long time.
Okay. So is this the first non-music role that you had served in?
So prior to going to Life Change, which is the church where we met Ryan and Katie, we were at a church that got smaller and smaller and smaller. I mean, to the point where, like, I was the treasurer, I was the worship leader.
Oh,
I was the. It wasn't really a healthy church situation, because again, when you've got one or two people doing every single thing, that's not a great sign. But so yeah, I had various experiences over the years.
Okay.
But then when Ryan and Katie took the call to come here, Ryan said, "Hey, Josh and Nicole, like, I want you guys to come down with us." And we'll get to what JB said. Like, we laughed. We were kind of like, psh, no, you don't. I had a plan. For where I was going. I was in
laughing
school.
In ministry.
That's right. So be warned. If anyone ever suggests that you go into ministry and you laugh, guess what? Give it a year.
Yeah.
You're going to be Pastor Bill. Like, what? I don't know if your name is Bill. If your name is Cheryl, it's probably, anyways.
Okay.
So, whoop. So then when they came down
So you had plans.
so I had plans and
Sturgis was not part of your plans.
Full-time ministry wasn't really part of it. Now, we had, both Nicole and I, we had kind of felt this prompting towards ministry of some sort, but it was more like, hey, maybe when the kids grow up, we'll go do missions or, something like that. But then we prayed about it, and we prayed about it some more. Everything pointed. We came down and visited Ryan and Katie. We met Ryan and Katie down here, and they gave us kind of a tour of Sturgis. We actually did like a little incognito. We showed up here for a Sunday morning service.
No one knows who you are.
Nobody knows who we are. And Ryan was not, he had not taken over yet. So nobody would have any idea who we were. We just thought, hey, well, we want to kind of get a feel for this church body. And so we came down on a Sunday morning and hung out, and we left, and it was just one of those things. Just like even the message. So this would have been, Steve Bean was still the pastor. The message he gave that morning was like a giant confirmation of like, no, hey, like, Lord,
Same with me with Ryan.
everything that God has been telling us up till this point, all the wisdom we've been seeking from other people, like mentors. And
So it's not even like Ryan, like, trying to manipulate you to come to Sturgis. It's literally this other dude.
And so
that
here's
God
the thing,
used.
right? I mean, we came to Sturgis and we were praying, Lord, like, give us a sign that this is not what you want us to do. Because again, I mean, I had my plan.
Don't tell God what to do.
Right. and so then God totally flipped it. And every sign he gave us was, no, this is where you're supposed to be.
Oh man, that's
So,
awesome.
So then, so here we are. And it's
That's
been,
so
I'll
cool.
tell you what, there has, I told my wife this, I don't know, last week. I said, I have never had a job. I mean, in being a pastor, it's not just a job, right? But I've never had a work experience where, like, you wake up and you're like, dude, I can't wait to get into the office. Right? I remember previous jobs, even if I enjoyed the job, you'd get that Sunday night, oh crap, tomorrow's Monday, I got to start work.
Yeah.
I have never had that here. And again,
awesome.
going on 5 years, it's still, there's no group of people that I would rather do life with and work with. And
Yeah, I want to do a shout out to Steve Bean as well, because I was kind of under his leadership as well as a volunteer before going to Wisconsin. He actually tried to talk me out of ministry.
Oh,
As a good pastor should.
I think every pastor should
right.
always first talk someone out.
I agree.
It is not for everyone.
No.
there's a great,
Right.
who's the author? But the book Dangerous Calling, is it David,
That's a tough read.
The guy with the mustache.
the guy with the mustache?
There's a lot of guys with mustaches.
3 of us in this circle have mustaches.
No,
Brandon.
his is clearly distinct.
Oh, Paul David Tripp.
Paul David
Tripp.
Oh.
He
Dangerous
does
Calling.
have a very distinct
Yeah,
mustache.
I think it covers his whole mouth.
Now I want to
Like,
look at
that's
a
a
picture.
No,
of
it's
this.
serious.
See
It's a
this
walrus
it's a good,
mustache.
it's a good one.
Oh, it doesn't have any.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
a
don't
tough read. Like not as like, I mean, you can sit down and read it, but it's tough to it hits the heart.
So you did a shout out to Steve Bean. I want to do a shout out, and maybe Ryan, I'll lump you in this, to Steve Jones, the lead pastor up at Life Change in Burnups. I mean, obviously, Ryan, you were on staff under his leadership, and then Steve, I think part of what primed Nicole and I for coming down here is Steve and his wife Beth had sat down with Nicole and I a couple of times to start to say, hey, what might it look like for you guys to explore vocational ministry, full-time ministry. So I think we both have, in a sense, owe a debt to Steve Jones. So apparently, if
JB, do you have a Steve
Is
in
there
your
a
life
Steve in
that
your life?
spoke to you?
Yeah.
Just make up a
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
And his name's Steve.
No, early on when I first got saved, I went to my lead pastor and I
Was
was
his name Steve?
No, his name was Ron.
Okay.
His middle name was Steve.
No, I don't think I know his middle name.
Then it's Steve.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll call him Steve. And I was going to go out to California to Bible college and do that whole thing. And I was sitting in his office. He says, "No, I don't think that's what God has for you. I think you're called to pastor, and I think you can do your schooling here." And so that's what I did. I did night classes for years to go through Bible college. I learned to be a pastor watching another pastor. It was a very long internship, essentially. I learned good and bad, but yeah, I learned, for my lead pastor, I learned what it meant to say the hard things, to do what we were talking about earlier, which was tell people when they're headed in a direction that could hurt them in a way that didn't destroy them. Hopefully they would respond, and say,
right.
Yeah, I think you might be right. That is God's best for me. So that was one of my early lessons. And ministration. I had to manage a boiler system, like a high pressure boiler in a 50,000.
Like fun.
It was not fun at all. Sunday mornings, you would hear this as these steam pockets would head through these things. They're knocking in these pipes. I'm totally off on a tangent. It was not fun at all. But
Okay. Well, hey, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna wrap up this episode of behind the scenes. But we'll have to do at least one more pastors behind the scenes episode.
All right.
I think there's more that we can.
I still have my
into.
notes here, Josh.
No, that was good because this was like the surface, get
Yeah.
to know like how we got into it. Now we can get into the nitty gritty.
So we'll do another episode behind the scenes with the pastors here. But for now, thanks you guys for joining us here with Reflections Behind the Scenes Sessions. Go ahead and like, subscribe, rate, share, all that good stuff on your podcast platform or YouTube, social media, whatever. But thanks for hanging out with us here today.